Welcome back to the Talos of Tech podcast. They said it couldn't be done, but I am officially Randy OS. If you are watching on YouTube, you know it.
It was a
Well,
mistake to not do this without Drew. Now we've got all the power in our hands.
I know the inmates are running the asylum, and unfortunately, I spoke a little too soon to a fellow viewer who asked, "Are all three of you going to do this?" And I said, "Yeah." But asterisk, we did it on EV. Drew had to get going, so we traded one for the other. We are still majority rule for the. I know this is tech, but now we're majority Model Y in control again. So, whoop.
Majority iPad owners? No, I think
Hey.
Louise has one.
So, I mean, first of all, I've been watching as a viewer. So I got your guys' insight on the continuity iPhone, which was good to kind of get your guys' thoughts. But I wanted to ask you something, something that's been heavy on my mind. I've been gone, but I have not been, or I've been away, but I've not been gone. And I have been doing my own deep analysis, and I released my first video as of today, recording today's podcast. This comes out later on the week or weekend, but I'm doing a series segment, deep diving. I said series, not the voice assistant, but I have been, Siri. I'm doing a series of a segment. I am doing a deep dive. I am researching. I am going to become all knowing about the new kid on the block for software, Apple Intelligence. And I want to talk to you about that from your standpoint. Boom.
Sure. Figure this out. Bear with me.
Yeah. Mike is he's in the control center, control command, cockpit. He's navigating the operations of this episode today. So if you love it, thank him. If you hate it, hate him, but you know, it's all the same. I want to talk to you about Apple's AI, Apple Intelligence, because I got to talk with Drew for the recap, but since Dub, I have not been able to talk to you, and we could talk about the OSs. I feel like they're kind of self-explanatory. I'm not really interested in that. I'm interested about the new flavor in the 31 flavors, and
bubblegum is pretty good.
It is. First of all, before I steer it, just unobstructed thoughts for you. What is your thoughts on Apple Intelligence?
That's a tough question and also an easy answer at the same time. It's great for those that love generating images. It's something that I dabbled in for some of the thumbnails that I generated for either this podcast, the EV podcast, or just for my own creation. But it's not something that I'm actively using a bunch. I'm like you, Randy. I'm also somewhat of a creative personality, or maybe not personality, but creative mindset to a lot of things that I tackle in life. But I'm not that creative to where I'm using it all the time. So something like Apple Intelligence, I think, has a lot of cool features. Whether you want to make your own Genmoji or anything like that, or you want to erase people from the background, or even just being able to optimize the notifications that you're getting. I think that's great and all, but it's not stuff that I'm very excited for. It's a cool tool, but nothing that I'm hooting and hollering over.
Yeah. Okay. I will try to match the recap of that to be in the same time length as you. The generative stuff, on a technical level, I'm like, cool. For a system-wide thing, sweet. For a on-device capability for these things, solid for the most part. And I know if you get more intricate, it'll go to these cloud-based servers. But to have something done in-house, I'm all for it. So much so that like there literally is no purpose for an AI pin or R1 Rabbit R1 thing. Like those things just dead before launch. But with that, I'm not excited. I'm not excited for what was announced last week.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm more excited about is the 2 to 5 year plan. I'm really excited about where this is going. I'm excited only about the foundation of which was just presented to us and nothing else. I
Mm-hmm.
do not care for the generative photos. I do not care for genmojis. I do not care about any of those things. Do I use them? Yes. I've released music using AI cover art to my specifications.
Hmm.
I have used Dolly. Um, I I was going to use Midjourney, but then it became a paid thing, which I totally get because those things are for photorealism. Those things are like really freaking cool. But for Apple, for me to use Apple's AI stuff on board for generative things,
Mm-hmm.
it's too kid friendly, I think. Not in a security way, not in a limitation way, but in a like aesthetic way. I'm like, I'm good. It doesn't even look like a Pixar generation or a generative image. It just looks like drawings. That
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, that does creep me out. I don't like
The
that.
creepy
I get
superhero
what
mom is my favorite thing out of this whole Apple Intelligence debacle.
I get it. I don't like it. But it doesn't it's not photorealistic. Um
Mm-hmm.
okay. So what was presented to us I think is an amazing first step. And I think
Sure.
when it comes to uh mass adoption, Apple's going to nail it. And I think more so from a PR stance, I think even on the security side, Apple's going to nail it. And so that's why they take their time. Siri never got good over the last decade and some time because of the security implications of just sending the stuff off. Now, there's an asterisk there because it had been noted that contractors through Apple were listening to our inquiries with Siri over the years. So private might not be the word, but at least secure enough. Um, so I do believe Apple when they say they're going to take their time with implementing their AI architecture. Um, I don't really care about the generative stuff. All this to say that I am 100% on board and I care only about the now almost limitless enhancements that we get towards Siri just to get her whatever brought up to speed with Google Assistant, Bixby if that's still a thing, I don't know.
I think
Mainly
Bixby's gone, Randy.
okay, but mainly Google Assistant, right? Like that one, like Google has been killing it with its integration for like just system wide search, and now we get that, and we get that in a way that I welcome because I've always viewed these generative models coming from OpenAI mainly, but also now Microsoft Bing incorporating ChatGPT as well. I've always viewed these search functions or these chat functions as web searching. Like that, this is your new web browser, and it will go to the web for you and then consolidate and curate something for you, and here you go. So to have anything that you can interact with your device,
Mm-hmm.
like on your home screen, in messages, on in the Photos app, wherever you're at, and you just need to do something that's web-based related. And now Siri can do that, and you could just do what you need to do right there on the prompt without having to click it and open up another window. Is efficient, and I'm excited about that. That's all I'm excited for Gen 1. Literally, that's it.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Do you think that this is maybe, it seems weird to compare this, but is it on the same scale or promise as what Vision Pro uh, was somewhat presenting last year in terms of what it could build to, or at least what it showed at the beginning of this year of what the possibilities could be in the next 5-year plan or whatever?
I like that you're asking about Vision Pro, because in my video that I did this week, I compared this for a moment. I compared this to Vision Pro, and I will tell you, this isn't your question, but I want to just get this out of the way. It's weird that Apple Intelligence is coming to all M devices or a 15 Pro series, but not the Vision Pro, which has an M2 or an M1. No, it has an M2. But it's not getting Apple Intelligence, and I am perplexed as to why. I find that very interesting because is this not supposed to be the future? Am I wrong? No, yeah. I'm looking at it. Okay, so Mike just pulled up, and for our audio listeners, Mike just pulled up the what's compatible. There is no Vision Pro on there, and that's just really that's just really weird to me. That's extremely weird to me. Because last year, now I'm going to answer your question. Last year, Vision Pro was introduced as this new post laptop future. What's life after Mac and maybe even iOS or iPhone for that matter? And they were putting all this emphasis on Vision OS, and now Vision OS doesn't even get the AI capabilities, even though it's capable. So no, I don't think this is the same promise as what Vision Pro is because Vision Pro is $3,500. Like at the end of the day, that's the Achilles heel right there. So much so that rumors now that they hoped they halted production or emphasis on Vision Pro 2 to now allocate its resources towards a cheaper model, which is 100% the right move to do. So at least in execution, no, I think Apple Intelligence is way more practical, way more accessible, and cheaper for that point. I will only be able to experience it on the MacBook Pro because now my $800 iPhone that I just bought 9 months ago is not good enough, and that's weird to me. But
yeah, and same goes for me. I'll only be able to check it out on not my MacBook Pro because I don't have one, but my MacBook Air is an M1 or it has an M1 in it, and then also my Mac Studio. Hopefully, I'd hopefully be in the right sound mind. Assuming, and then also just looking at the list as well, seeing that yes, of course, the Mac Studio with the M1 Max chip is also capable of it, but it does seem weird that the 14s at least don't get it for the iPhones or any other iPads that don't have M1. I guess, okay, I get it. But even still, it feels like some light features, LITE features of Apple Intelligence would be nice to have on some of these devices. So that way, even though it might run slow, it would be nice to get those people who are somewhat interested more, I guess, a little bit of a taste of it, or at least some sort of, I don't know, some morsel of what they could do with Apple Intelligence. I think would be a very smart move from Apple. But if they're assuming that a lot of people buy their Macs, they'll have it as long as they've got an M chip. So it's not going to be an issue there. It's for those that have an iPhone, which most people buy from Apple, and those that buy iPads, in which I don't know why you want to use Apple Intelligence on iPad for some specific reasons. Maybe it's to curate some art that you can either use as a template or be able to overlay it or compare it to something else.
Let's talk about that for a second. I want to, right now, no pressure. It's just you and me. No Drew. What are your thoughts on iPads now? Right now. Not what Drew thinks. We know. What do you think?
So echoing a lot of my thoughts from last week.
Yeah.
Because I did speak the truth last week. I mean, I feel like I've been speaking the truth every single time. Don't think that I'm spreading lies here. But I do think what iPad has going for it is perfectly fine. Do I wish there's more stuff going on with it? Yes. But am I okay with what it has right now? Yeah. It's not something that I'm actively searching for better features, or even what it can do right now I think is enough for what people use it for. But to enhance it a little bit more would be great, but I'm not too salty on it. In terms of iPadOS 18, it seems like a pretty promising upgrade with being able to change up the home screen and change up the icons and all that for dark mode or wherever. Or even the calculator app, I think is probably the best thing going for it, because already they've kind of stressed that the iPad is a really good device for those that can afford it as a smart tablet for schools, and being able to utilize that for note taking or anything else. And I think enhancing that experience with notes or math notes and being able to kind of have a spatial math thing going on, spatial notes, I guess. You think about spatial audio and all that, or smart this, smart that, or AI this, AI that, having a smart notes capability of drawing a graph or drawing an XY plot and then having some variables tied to it, or even just drawing variables and then having the notes generate it, I think is really cool and adds a lot of utility to the iPad. I think it will garner a lot more interest in those that are cross-shopping iPads with Surface Pros or any other third-party tablet that is of interest for students. So I think it only enhances it in that way, and that's why I'm very excited for it as someone who was recently a student, graduated in 2020 or 2021, granted. But I think it does have a lot going for it. And to add Apple Intelligence to those devices that do allow it with the M1 chip or newer, uh, is a great, I guess, icing on the cake or sprinkles on the ice cream.
Yeah. So iPad OS, I've been known to criticize a little here and there. Okay, but what I do give flowers to, because it's really sick and I like it a lot, is the corrective handwriting, that you start to write something and your chicken scratch of handwriting can get adjusted to look more legible. And look at that. And then, yeah, it smooths it out and it remembers your handwriting. It implements that now going forward. It will remember how you, more or less, how your writing habit is. So I like that.
Mhm.
I've been very heavy into using my Apple Pencil this year, so much so that it actually has readjusted how I view the iPad. And I'll say right from the offset exactly what you said, Mike. For what it is, it's great, and I just wish there was more. Um, I told Drew this during the recap podcast, and my overall sentiment is I now finally understand iPad OS. It took me a long time to get behind, what, you know, getting behind an iPad, because I'm over here harping on all the great hardware it is, and I couldn't wrap my head around the operating system. And then after watching this last keynote, I finally understand iPad OS. And the answer, I think I said this to Drew, but the answer is the iPad OS is not, it's not for me, or it's not
Mhm.
for someone who does content creation. Somebody who's, this very format of how we're recording the podcast right now could not be done on iPad OS. And it now, if we're looking at a pie chart, okay, and for majority of the life, let's say 100% of that pie chart was a PC. And then after 2010, I'd say a good, I'd say a solid half or a third of that pie chart became a smartphone, and then the remaining 50 to 66% would be still a PC.
Mhm.
I'm very comfortable saying in 2024 that the iPad as an operating system can and effectively does replace so much of what the Mac can do. But what it doesn't replace, it's because the Mac is that good at doing said thing. And I reevaluated how I use my hardware, how I actually engage with my ecosystem. And what I've concluded for me is the laptop, the MacBook, the PC of this pie chart is now closer to, let's say 25%. 25% of it is now PC, and it's a MacBook Pro. And if we were to even zoom in on that further, at least 80% of the time, it's in closed and it's plugged into my studio display. 20% of it, it's with me. It wasn't always the case. I bought a MacBook and not an iMac again because I was moving around. My life has changed over the last couple of years where that's no longer the case. And so about 25% of what I use my Mac for, it does very, very well. And it used to be 75% was done on my smartphone, on iOS. And then as the softwares started to splinter and go out like this, and we started to see them diverge even more, I found myself using iPadOS for the more hands-on, tactile engagement when it comes to photos, when it comes to, in a literal but also broad term here, contracts, when it comes to home improvements and stuff to that nature. I have signed so many legal binding contracts because of my iPad, and I didn't have to go to a library or whatever to print the document, sign it, and then get a stamp and send it off. I could just sign it and then email it, and it's as good as, a legal agreement. So from the business end of things, I find the iPad very useful for me, and the fact that iPadOS was able, since last generation, since the current release, which is 17, you're able to scan documents and it auto PDFs for you, and you can type in and do it. I've like that. The Mac can't do that. The iPhone doesn't do that. The iPad enables you to do that, and then you have to sign and scribble and all that stuff. There are workarounds both on the Mac and on the iPhone to do the same thing with finger gestures, signing on the trackpad, or just using your phone. Sure. But much like saying that 25% of the Mac does it really, really well for me, which for this, it's literally this, and literally I'll frame all my audio stuff, all my music. I don't touch the Mac for anything else, with the exception of it being my local backup for iCloud photos and videos and stuff like that. I have such a big hard drive. I use it for local storage when need be, and I use it for audio production, and I use it for video production, and that is it. And there are workarounds around that too, but I lean on the Mac to do that. I find myself leaning on iPad to do the exact same thing now for almost everything else. And it's a great media consumption device because it's a big screen real estate that I take with me because the Mac stays docked. The iPhone used to be the 75%, and I find the iPhone being more, if Mac is 25, the other 75, I would say you can split that in half. Maybe give a little edge to the iOS still, since it's the most personal on the go device for you. But the the iPad has come a long way, and I don't lean on my iPad to do content creation, but I do create on it, which blows my mind. Okay, all that to say, I was going somewhere with that. The iPad OS that was announced, I find myself caring more about quality of life improvements than I do new features, and that includes Apple Intelligence. My iPad will not get the AI capabilities because it's not an M chip, it's an A12X chip. And
Which iPad is that?
2018. It's a 2018 iPad Pro, 13-inch. I'm not calling it 12.9 anymore because they don't. So I call it 13-inch.
12.9. Do you know what
Yeah.
generation it is?
Gen 3.
You're gonna get it.
I'm not gonna get the artificial.
It supports iPad Pro 12.9-inch, 3rd generation and later.
Hang on. We got a fact check in lifetime. I don't think I'm Gen 2.
Well, here's something to think about as well, Randy.
Yeah.
The iPad 7th generation, the iPad regular,
Yeah.
which has the A10 Fusion chip.
Oh, you're right there. Just punch it in for me. Do iPad Pro Gen 3. I'll tell you by the wallpaper if that's it. Yeah, that's it.
12.9, A12X. Yeah. It's supported.
What's Gen 2? Show me Gen 2.
Gen 2.
Yeah, iPad 12. Yeah, it's not that one. Yeah.
Yeah, you got Gen
3. Wait a minute. Wait. What? I swear I looked at this and it said that I wasn't going to get it because it's not an M chip.
It doesn't have to be an M chip. So the Pro, I guess the Pro with M4 or whatever will get it.
Oh, you're talking about iPadOS.
iPadOS, yeah.
I'm talking about Apple Intelligence. I'm talking about AI.
Gotcha. That was my bad.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
No, I think
I'm
then
talking
you'd be
about
right,
AI.
most likely.
I am right. It's A12. It's A12X.
Yes.
It doesn't have the capabilities.
Right. I guess I was thinking more. I mean, I believe you mentioned quality of life updates.
Yes.
And
quality of life I will be getting on the next update. Go ahead.
Right. You will be getting stuff like the calculator app, which I think is overdue, but stuff like that, or what you were mentioning before, the being able to refine your notes or your writing style so that way it's a little bit more readable. Maybe this will actually help a lot with doctors if they use iPads for jotting down notes, or even nurses as well, or even the live audio transcription. I think that'll be very useful for you in terms of creating scripts and all that, and being able to see how you want to structure a video, and then being able to see it both written out and or hear it. And there you go. Easy just to figure out what you want to do for your next piece of content, or if you're just trying to jot down some thoughts.
Yeah, I guess I'm waiting. Here goes to a bigger thing, which I assume I know your answer to this, but I'm just, since now it's you and I talking here, I'm not running any betas. I know.
I've never ran a beta except for FSD beta, I think.
You paid a lot of money for that one, so I agree.
Yeah.
So I bring that up because there's no point to run the betas. I don't really care. This is the first time ever I'm not interested on any betas, and it's not because the stuff is good. It's because it is good and it's expected. This is all quality of life improvements from fixing Siri, from they didn't fix file management on iPadOS, which still irks me, but it did get a little bit better.
They're still leaving a ceiling for growth.
I know, but it's like I don't want to upgrade my iPad because it doesn't change the quality of life improvement from going from a 2018 iPad to any of the M chip iPads. Even if I was to get an Air, even if I was to get something used, it doesn't change the quality of life. But I want to wait until I see the stuff in action, the software in action.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, I am referring to Apple Intelligence. I want to wait to see what that actually looks like in real world usage, so that way I can make a better judgment call if it's worth my time trying to get an iPhone Pro. If say it's only a Pro feature now, I'm so happy with my iPhone 15 as is that I don't really need to upgrade, but I don't like being software locked. So it's like, oh, I might do it. I don't know, but I need to see it used. And same with the iPad. I have no incentive to upgrade. But if there's something that you and I don't know about when it comes to the AI stuff that is just completely game changing, whether it's fun stuff like script writing or art, generating art of that kind, or heck, that's the thing. I saw what they featured, and I don't know what else outside of this walled vision of where it's at right now. Am I like, oh, I need that? It's cool that like this is not even AI though. I'm just glad that we can filter our mail in the stock mail app because that's the one I use. And now I can categorize it. I like the summaries that you can get from email or text. Okay, or notifications, I should say. I like that. But it's like, okay, nothing's like I need that now. Last time I felt that was probably using my continuity cam. I think 2 years ago. That was the last time I was like, I need that. And after that, I've been happy. I've been happy with iOS since I think iOS 14, and I've been happy with Mac since Ventura no. Is Ventura continuity cam? Ventura. It's Ventura. Yeah. I don't think it was Monterey. It was Ventura. I've been happy with those, and I've been like, I can get by with the iPad for forever, so it doesn't really matter. And so because I'm stale with software and I'm not really excited about the software, I was extremely interested. I wouldn't say excited, but I'm extremely interested in Apple's AI stuff. But doesn't mean I would use it in my day-to-day. That's maybe the God's honest truth, which is why I'm not excited this year. 2 years from now, I'm not even gonna say next year because I know better, but 2 years from now, somewhere between 2 and 5 years from now, I'm gonna be stupid excited because the whole AI world is going to be a little bit more refined with OpenAI, with Google's Gemini, with other players that are maybe not in the game. You know, God bless R1 Rabbit, whatever, and AI Pin for trying, failing, but they tried. Well, I'm sure we'll see more of that stuff come around. And then what does that mean for us? How's that going to incorporate? Will that affect our Teslas in the future? I'm curious.
Sure. Or even, I mean, this is also a little bit EV related too, but NVIDIA and Rivian forming a partnership and being able to have some of that capability to introduce autonomy towards those adventurous vehicles. So there is potential for growth in all different sectors, whether it is automotive or tech, or even just regular home OS stuff, whether it's your Google tablet or Nest Hub or whatever that you got there, or a little, what's it called? HomePod Mini just sitting in the corner, or even just your phone. So I feel like the sky's the limit still for it. It's just right now it's not necessarily it's not a comprehensive package that I'm very excited for. In fact,
what are you looking for, Mike? What is it that you're excited for, or what is it that you're looking for? What will excite you?
So something that is exciting me right now, I'm glad that you're somewhat transitioning to this or helping me transition to this topic. And I think what was really well organized by this company was specifically the light phone company, where they timed it perfectly right after the Apple announcement that they were going to be announcing their next product. Light Phone is a company that currently makes specifically the Light Phone 2. And these are, I guess, what the industry calls it, or what a lot of people call it, are dumb phones, quote unquote, dumb phones. In particular, their most recent product, I think that's been going on for about 4 years now, the Light Phone 2, is pretty much an e-ink display phone. And you might get the ick out of that because e-ink and phone sounds a little bit off. With the tablet, it kind of makes sense and all that with like the remarkable.
Like the Kindle.
Yeah, well, I was thinking remarkable that me and Drew were talking about, I think 2 weeks ago. That sold me. But something like e-ink on a phone I thought was unique, but then I saw it in use, and having to text on it and it be a little bit laggy and unresponsive. And then also it pretty much flash banging you every single time that you type a letter to update the screen to include that W or that A or anything else in the message is a bit much. It's a little bit too stroby. I don't get affected like that, like most people.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit much for me. But what they did announce was the successor to the Light Phone 2 being the Light Phone 3. And this is what's exciting me. I've brought this up in the past in regards to social media, in which we've had podcasts on this as well. Even just you and I talking about this, Randy, where social media is just getting a little bit too much, at least for me these days.
I hate it, man. I do.
A little bit too more ridiculous. And I find myself at my work, glancing at my phone, looking at social media. And it annoys me so much because I want to be efficient, but my stupid brain is pretty much just hooked on phonics in regards to social media. And it's a struggle in which I've tried the whole deleting the apps or whatever, or taking them off the home screen. I don't want to delete them because I want to get some of the information, but then I find myself just swiping down on the iPhone to get the search bar, and then automatically just it has the apps ready there because it knows what I'm going to search for or tap on at that time.
Dude, same, man. But mine is I swipe right and I get to the app library, and it's the 4 suggestions are always, it's either going to be what? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. One of the ones I don't like any of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just doom scroll.
Yes, and that's something that I don't like is you suddenly get caught up in it and you don't realize until you've been doing it for 1 to 5 to 10 minutes, and then there goes all that time that you could have been doing something better. Yeah. So something that I'm actually liking a lot about what this company is all about is regressing the features on smartphones to something that's more utility focused, something that what we had before in terms of dumb phones, but still providing some of those creature comforts in this newest design. It looks very iPhone 4, 5S looking in its design, all squared off and all that. But in particular, with the Light phone, it's no longer an e-ink display. It's a OLED display. And with that also, because as an LED display, I don't know if the music's coming through on this.
I don't hear it.
Oh, okay. Well, even still, to protect just in case, it's got a camera on the back as well. So you can take photos on it, and I believe it displays in color on that screen too. So that way you're not making the ultimate sacrifice of going with a dumb phone and having terrible photos. You can still have a camera in your pocket at the ready, and it just so happens to be your phone for communication. But as far as I can tell from its specs, I can't really see anything in regards to like RCS or anything like that. It might still be operating on the SMS texting network. But I believe with this newest one, you can do group chats, where on the Light phone 2, you cannot. So
am I going to see you move to that phone?
That's why I wanted to bring it up, because you predicted that I'd do something along the lines of like an SE3 conversion either this year or next year or something like that. But the Light phone 3 is definitely capturing my attention because I struggle with social media usage, even though I hate it. I still go to see if there's any new information that Drew's put up on the Tello account, or that you've put up for the Randy Nexus, or anything new in the automotive industry. I want to get that update. And usually I'm checking maybe every hour, every 2 hours, and there's no new updates. So I'm looking for no reason, and I get caught up in some other post or something else that's trending, and it's totally unnecessary, and it just totally ruins my workday.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. You're a braver person than I for even wanting to give that a go. I know me better. My face is responding, by the way, if anybody's watching on YouTube, because I have this in full screen. So when you went to that window, my face lit up, so it actually looks like I can touch it.
It's actually pretty neat how we've got it all structured for this podcast.
I know.
Something that I learned about this, because some information is trickling out. I think more information is going to be coming out at the end of this week, so we're a little bit too early for a lot of the info to be discussed with someone in the community and someone who works at this company. But I believe something that might be extrapolated on is this scroll wheel, almost like what we have on Apple Watches or even the Vision Pro. I believe is almost like a shutter button on the cameras, where if you, I think it's also coming to the iPhone 16, where you can lightly press on the scroll wheel button to focus, to autofocus and all that, and then click it down one more time to then take the photo. So it does have some of that tactile feedback in taking photos,
I
but
like
also
that.
the simplicity of not having any social media apps uh, accessible on it. I think you can listen to music on it, like Spotify and all that, but it doesn't have all the look and feel
I have a
that
question for you,
smartphones
Nick.
have. Hmm.
You're brave enough to do this, or at least consider it, which is braver than me.
Hmm.
But why are you not brave enough to just delete all your social media apps and be done with it?
And that's the easy answer. And then also, what's even more of an issue if I went forward with this is how do I get into my car? Because my car is smartphone key
Man, that's so
capable.
true. I go to my car all the time still, try to get something really quickly, and I can't get in because I don't have my phone on me. I'm like, put it on the watch. Like, put
Right.
the thing in. Just let me get in through, NFC contactless.
Hmm.
Let me just do that.
Or
But
even what Rivian does. I think that's what I'm sort of itching for right now is having
tell me.
a strap that has like an RFID chip in it or whatever it is that you can just hold it up. So that way you're just wearing this all day. It's barely a smart device. All it does is has a chip in it that connects with
Stop
the
making
vehicle.
me want a Rivian more. I'm looking down at you because in the current format, it looks like you're on the top of you're below me. Stop it.
Right. But
That's so cool.
that's something else that I'm also a little bit tentative on adopting this phone is it changes up my whole or maybe not my whole ecosystem, but it changes up how I interact with the phone, which is good because that's what I want, but bad because there's a lot of smart features that I access with my iPhone. And this is
Yeah.
something that I'm actually foreseeing. The Light Phone 2 seemed like a added on phone that you pretty much take around with you, but then if you really need to answer a group text or something else, you have your iPhone with you, you just have it turned off.
Yeah.
Uh, but for the Light Phone 3, I feel like this is actually something that you can fully replace your phone with. And it is pretty much that utility phone that we used to have back in the day rather than something that is pretty much the doom scrolling machine.
You know what's interesting? I I made this observation maybe within the last week. Um, Whenever we go so heavy into literally anything, there's a counterbalance of something that will equally go as heavy.
Mhm.
And we've observed this from the regret of doom scrolling. We don't like how we feel afterwards. It's like you're eating the bad food you know you shouldn't be eating, and then you just feel gross afterwards anyway. And
Mhm.
you do it either out of convenience, which most of the time that's what it is. It's convenient, and it's convenient by design. There's an addictive element there. We could compare social media platforms to like fast food, and they go hand in hand about from marketing to convenience to addictive elements in the product that you're like, man, and you don't feel better afterwards.
Mhm.
And I've always made the excuse, and there is some excuse to this, but there's a kernel of truth that YouTube would always be different for me because it is a resource and information platform for me first, which is true. I use YouTube for learning, whether it's the
Mhm.
tech. Well, I mean, I have so many different like recommendations because of the algorithm that shows me different things. The spectrum is very wide out there, from geography to social local politics to the technology that we're working with to gameplay footage and deep analysis into like why is Red Dead 2 designed like all that stuff to I look at tutorials on how to use Procreate on the iPad to learn a new thing because I'm trying to get better at drawing. So like this, the spectrums are. Then also sometimes just music. I'll put music on in the background and I treat it as a playlist unintentionally, but I will. And then you also get the engagement part with live streams and stuff of that caliber that matters. So YouTube was like it. It is by far my most used app. I
Mhm.
don't need the screen time thing to tell me that. I know. But I try to be productive with it. If I'm going to be addicted with something, let me be addicted to something that can at least maybe benefit me in a knowledge base. And I've curated my algorithm to not let me doom scroll. Like, for example, maybe the most controversial one might be politics, but the politics isn't of that of like Trump or Biden. I don't care about that. When I say politics, I actually mean in the sense of like local policies that have to do with Colorado or like who's on the ballot. Like I look at my local things, stuff that I can actually have an input on. So there's no doom scrolling for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find interesting is that yes, I have these other platforms and I hate using them. And I hate justifying it's like, well, I gotta do it for the Randy Nexus. I gotta do it to promote my next song. And I hate just doing that. And I have to find that balance. But whenever we go heavy onto something, no matter YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, I don't do TikTok. I've got away from that. But the short form content, there's a counterbalance for desire for content like this, long form, unedited content. When we go heavy onto social media, then there's a counterbalance to those addictions like the light phone you're showing. When we stress about AI, there's a need for authenticity, something that's man-made, curated. I remember how I was thinking about this the other day. AI can replicate music now. It could do music from nothing, and it can sound okay. In fact, I sent you something out of a kind of goofy, that little country song.
Mm-hmm.
And I was laughing at that because it's like, see, this is why I don't feel threatened about AI, because this is silly. But it will get good soon. And it will be, and I'll feel like I have to compete with it. And I'm like, man, fine. But I don't feel like my job will be obsolete, because the more AI takes over any of this stuff, the more I've noticed just in the text-based field of things, there's a hunger and a need for authenticity of something that's man-made, curation, which is why we like playlists. Mike, send me your playlist, like, because I know that's you.
Mm-hmm.
Show me who you are, not what the computer thinks you are. We get hungry for this genuine authenticity, and I don't see that changing anytime soon on really any of it. And like at the end of the day, I feel that we will, like, again, I don't feel like my job's at risk for any sake of it. There might be the comparison I always say is that it's still imitation meat. We know maybe there's something even subliminal in our brain of the uncanny valley that we just know. Even if they get rid of the watermark, I know this was computer generated, and our brains will have a certain degree of distrust from it because it's not authentic, and you just know. I don't know how we know. I'm going to be interested in doing a deep dive on that stuff, man. I will be doing that, a deep dive to extrapolate that stuff, but I'm not as worried as maybe I should be. But at the same time, none of it matters if you're not online anyway. So to going back to the social media stuff, like the only time I ever see this in our face when doom scrolling is on Twitter. I hate Twitter more and more every day. As it becomes more X, I'm like, I don't even recognize you. But I was always going to hate Twitter. Same thing with Instagram, Facebook, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to have the same story. And I have to work really hard to make sure my YouTube curation doesn't fall victim to any doom scrolling. I don't click on the stuff I'm not interested in. I definitely don't engage with rage bait. I don't do any of that stuff because it's not healthy for the mind. And as I've gotten older, same thing why I don't want to run these betas, I guess. As I've gotten older, I just care about the moment, being in the moment, whether it's with my wife, with my kid, with my friends, whatever it is. Like, I don't want to be a prisoner of these tools. I want to be free. A
Right.
tool for a better life. The Light Phone 3 is a decision you make when you're finally ready to say enough is enough, as it's posted on Twitter. Go ahead.
Right. No, but that's pretty much their ad for this new phone. And I think you put it pretty plainly enough, or at least in parallel for what they're trying to achieve with this is they're focused on you and your loved ones, not necessarily on you and your enjoyment of the device. The device definitely has a lot of great features and new updates with being able to have an OLED screen, but still maintaining that matte finish on the front to make it feel like an e-ink display, but still very simplistic. And the focus is more on your hobbies and things that enhance your life, but not necessarily become your life. It's not a whole entire world that you're immersing yourself in. It's helping you immerse yourself in your world.
Yes. It needs to be it's the second word right there. A tool. It needs to be a tool.
Right.
That's it. It used to be a tool. A dumb phone, as we call dumb phones now. I'm old enough to be like, well, my first 2-3 phones were dumb phones. It was a tool. I don't know how we got to the point where it's like, well, I mean, what I'm about to say, I do know how we got to it, but on a bigger scale is what I'm thinking about. I don't know how we got to the point where when we overindulge ourselves on something like our smartphones, you become more depressed. But there is a correlation. And I don't know. Speaking for myself, I don't know if it's because I'm comparing myself to other people because I don't have those insecurities anymore. But I become depressed maybe because I feel like I'm wasting my time, if I'm being honest with you. Every time I'm on my phone, even if it's just for a minute, in the back of my head, if I'm being really honest with you, if I was like in therapy right now, and I'm just being honest, the back of my head is every time I get on my phone, I go, I could be with my son right now. And instead I'm looking at a screen. And I hate myself for it. I feel gross, like to the point of wanting to cry. I get upset, that type of rage. And there's a connection. There's a connecting thread there. When I do something like this, it's a little bit different. I can allocate the time. I'm working. But when I'm not, I don't have a reason to be on social media. I hate being on social media. To tie it back to the whole Apple Intelligence thing with the AI, one thing I'm looking forward to it, if it's everything it's hyped to be, even with this first gen version of it, is if it's as tongue twisting, if it's as efficient as it's being promoted about how you engage with the intelligence part. When Siri, I'm talking about Siri, that theoretically means that's time that would have been allocated on going on to a web browser or a social thing to search for something, and instead you're getting the information curated to you right there. And I always find myself like you. I will go on more than I should admit because I want to get updates either about whatever Drew's doing. Shoot, man. I mean, I follow, especially when you're doing your road trip. Like I like to track you, see what you're up to or what your wife's up to, and I use say social media for the good purposes too, like keeping up with the people I care about.
It's the fact that the bad, or not even quote unquote bad stuff or addictive stuff claws its way into it in front of your eyes.
I don't want that to be a supplement or a substitute to just what last week, 2 weeks ago. I don't know. I've honestly lost the concept of time for a minute here, but I called you and we were just talking completely off the record, just catching up. And like, that's more authentic to me than I won't know what Mike's up to if he doesn't put it on his story. Like that's not right. That's not healthy here. I shouldn't know what my friends are up to only by them posting something, or my family, my loved ones. I don't like, that's not how it's done. I have you and Drew pinned in my iMessages because not because of the podcasting, but because of the stuff that we talk about outside of that. And when we have the time to just kind of like, share memes or, hey, check out this news or whatever the case is, or meme the news, like I pinned the people I want to stay engaged with. And I got you and Drew. I got my family, obviously. I got another friend group. Well, you actually met them. You know who I'm talking about. Well, we'll talk later. You know who I'm talking about. But point is, like, I do that as a reminder, like, keep up with these guys. Stay in contact. Make sure that everyone's okay, type of a thing. Much, much better than social media. If I have to mask out my kid's face, there's a reason for that. You know what I mean? I send you guys the unfiltered stuff. I got to mask out my kid's face on social media. I don't like that degree of separation. And so it's my hope that maybe the Apple Intelligence helps break some of that addiction, maybe FOMO, even maybe.
Yeah. So my mindset at this point is what you posed the question to originally was why not just delete the social media apps? And it's very much for the same reason why you check Instagram to see maybe what I'm up to, what Drew's up to,
Yeah.
and all that. It's to see what your friends are doing.
Yeah.
But also in the same vein, why not just call them and ask? And so I've done that. I've done that practice of, you know what? I'm going to call my friends that I went to school with at
Yeah.
university. I'm going to see what they're up to and all that. Did that. It was awesome. It was great catching up with them. And I want more of that. I want more of that authentic connection rather than just waiting for the next social media post. Then I could just like it or comment
Right.
on it saying, this is cool. And that's it. You just become
And then
another.
yeah, exactly what you're about to say. You're
You just
just
become
another
another voice in the sea of
yeah.
noise. And it's just.
There's nothing genuine about it's not that it's not genuine, but there's nothing now special about it because it's just another heart. It's another name. It's
Another heart,
hey, cool.
another comment. It's great. And then you forget about it later rather than having a meaningful conversation for even if it's only for 15 minutes or less or 15 minutes or more. At least the conversation was authentic, real, and you got to catch up with someone that you possibly care about, or maybe you just wanted to catch up. It doesn't even have to be deep. It could just be talking for talking.
I fear that the reason I don't do that more often, if I'm being honest, is because I fear to a certain degree. If I'm reaching out to somebody I actually care about, I take the time to reach out to them.
Mm-hmm.
I fear subliminally the rejection that they're not going to answer the call, and some people are indoctrinated like, just text me. Why are you calling me? That's weird. So, and I get that. I do to a certain degree. I get that. Text me. What's wrong? And I was like, I'm reaching out because I want to make it more meaningful than a bunch of ones and zeros coded into this thing that says, "Hey, hope you're doing good."
Right.
So
yeah, that's something that I struggle with. One of my friends is that he's busy or he's just someone that doesn't do the first contact. He's the person that will respond but won't do the first contact. So I have to text him or call him first, and then maybe he responds, or maybe he answers the phone. Maybe he doesn't. But I guess a good example is with my college buddies I was talking to this week on the phone is that I called them last week or the week before. They didn't answer. Neither of them did. They were busy, in which I just left a voicemail, even if they checked or didn't, just saying, hey, I understand you're busy. You just wanted to catch up on the phone and talk. And
I bet that meant something. I'm sure that meant something.
But
still.
a week later, they called back.
There you go.
So if it mattered, this is getting a little bit too philosophical or a little bit too personal, but pretty much if the friendship matters that much, they will contact you back either through text message or by calling you back. And if they don't, well, then either they're really busy right now and they just can't handle an extra thing on top of their busy schedule, or they just don't value you that much anymore. And that's okay. That means it's something that either if you want to keep on pushing more and try to show that you want to have that connection, then they might cave and actually give in, or maybe not give in is the right word, but actually realize that there's something going on that you want to communicate, or they just will ignore it. And well, that's about it. So for me, it's more of putting the effort in, and something that I want to put less effort into is looking at social media, because all that's doing is putting it into an empty void of a water pail or a pail of water. An empty bucket. I keep on trying to fill this empty bucket, and it's never going to get full with my attention.
Yeah. I think since we're being so philosophical about things, I also, on that same notion, to kind of combat everything I just kind of said on my side too, we should also normalize outgrowing people. That is natural. This person doesn't fit in my life anymore. It's not personal. I grew. Not better. I just grew different.
No.
I had that realization. A friend was visiting me, and we did not outgrow each other, but I've known him for so long that we were just reflecting on other mutual friends that used to be in our group since high school and how we're, oh, where are they at? And like, like we just do that thing. You're just reminiscing. We talk about the good times and then we reflect where they're at. And then some people like very, very quickly, and it's apparent, you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm glad. I'm glad we don't hang out anymore with that. There's some things like I've outgrew them or I wasn't on
Sure.
that path. So, I mean,
And usually, I mean, hopefully it's for the better. A good example of that is our friend Nick, who has outgrown the podcast, has moved on to bigger and better things, and he's living
yeah,
the dream now, or at least building his way to living the dream. And
he looks happy. And I think that's all I wish for anybody. I wish that for him, you, Drew.
all
I
our
even wish
friends.
that for myself. I just want somebody to be happy, and the people I care about, I want them to be okay. And,
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm aiming for as well, to wrap it back around.
Yeah,
that's
like,
why
what a great tech.
Well, that's why I'm aiming for now with something like the Light Phone 3, where it costs right now to pre-order. You get locked in for a price of $399 or $400 instead of $800, which will be after July 15th or whatever this year. That doesn't sound bad for something that is battling or easy to. It's curtailing a lot of my issues with my smartphone. And I'm not going to get rid of the smartphone. I'm still going to use it as a camera. It's just I'm not going to really use it as the thing that sits in my pocket that I take photos with and that I get news on.
Yeah.
That will stay as a camera for my podcast recording setup. And then for being out and about, it will be the Light Phone. But that's why I envisioned.
Are you filming on your iPhone right now?
I've always filmed on my iPhone. I think the last time I didn't film on the iPhone was either when I was on my road trip or when I first got the studio display.
Gotta say, just from a observation of quality, like it's sometimes hard to tell that you're filming on an iPhone, and it looks like the quality's good. Just when I had you full screen, I'm going to full screen again right now. Yeah, I have us both full screen. Like I look like I'm on a mirrorless camera, but it actually, the quality looks pretty good. Whoa,
thanks.
Yeah, so I totally 100% endorse the using your smartphone as a camera first, which is why I'm scared to maybe ever step away from iPhone. Just on a cinematography level, it's still unmatched, and I rely too heavily on it. And I like the ecosystem of what we have with Continuity Cam and stuff like that. I'm always, as you know, if I'm not filming on that, I am always backup filming with my 15. And what a time to be alive. Like, where else would that have been a thing? So anyway,
so I
guess
can
wrap it up here.
Yeah, to wrap it up, or at least for those who are curious about the Light Phone, you can look it up. They have a pretty decent site. It does have USB-C, so big thumbs up / check mark for that. It does have Bluetooth as well, so you can connect whatever headphones, and it will beam the audio to there. It's got a speaker and all that. Fingerprint ID on the top, so it's scratching that itch of having some type of locking mechanism that isn't a passcode or anything like that. You just have to put your finger on a button, and there you go. What was the other thing? Oh, the camera on the back, 50 megapixel. So I would say in terms of spec, equivalent to what we got on our iPhones, but in terms of processing, that's where a lot of my questions are. So that's something I'm really going to be watching in the next year on their developments on the road to make the Light Phone 3, is what does that look like in its UI? What does it look like when viewing it in the photo library that they have? I can't call it an app because they don't really have apps. So the photo tool that they have in this phone, and then how you might easily get photos off of it, whether it's through Bluetooth or wired connection or something else, and what that quality looks like compared to an iPhone. So something like maybe what Marquez might output, hopefully, for a review on this, I'm very interested in. or even those that are very enthusiastic about this product. I'm really interested in seeing what it can offer and if it scratches that itch that I have for taking photos on a phone and just decent quality. It doesn't have to be amazing, just decent enough to where I can look back on it in a year and be like, that's actually pretty good compared to what the heck am I looking at in terms of this pixel mess.
That was my issue with a lot of Android phones about maybe 5 years ago, because they would like, oh, 50 megapixel, this, that, but it looks so bad because the pixels are so small anyway that like I would rather just have 12 megapixel cameras if the sensors were really big and it just took in more information. So, but anyway.
Sure. Yeah. Operates on 5G. Also has eSIM if you're into that, but also does nano SIM. And has GPS and IP54 rating. Not terrible. But yeah. So, and 128 gigabyte memory. So nothing huge, but I don't think with something like this, you're really going to need a lot of space for apps or even a whole bunch of photos, because this might encourage you to offload your photos onto your computer or other things.
I think I have a 158 15 right now. So
158?
A 128, excuse me, 128 on the iPhone 15.
I'm like, I've never heard of a 158 storage.
Because it doesn't exist.
Right. But the fact that this is more focusing on phone as a utility and then offsets all the web searching and or entertainment to your computer, to your TV, to your iPad, I think is something that I'm very interested in and very thumbs up. Very much looking forward to seeing what their updates are in the next couple of months in preparation for a January 2025 launch. But that's me hyping over a product that I've not touched, not even really looked at too deeply into, and I don't have really any stake in the game besides I want to look at social media less.
That's a good enough reason.
Yeah. So call me an interested customer.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today on this very special and Drewless episode. We don't see many of those anymore. Last time we did this was exactly a year ago, I think, when he was gone overseas, when he was in Asia, I think.
I feel like we've done a Drewless episode in the last 6 months.
Oh, but okay. Well, either way, thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time, always with the intent of having all three of us. So we shall see. But until then, y'all take care. Have a good one. Goodbye. Bye. Two, one. I'm a man of habit.